Good morning. Today's topic is giving thanks. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We're asking, what are you grateful for this Thanksgiving? And to share your thoughts on the air, please call us on 415-663-8492. And, well, this is Radical Roots Radio after all. So before we start moving into the gratitude and what are we thankful for, I thought we'd just talk a little bit about the history of Thanksgiving. You know, most Americans think, said Paul, of this holiday as a wonderful time to be with your friends and family, watch football, feast, or give thanks. I don't know what else Americans do because we actually don't celebrate it in England, but since living here, that's what we do, eat turkey, etc. Apparently, it's a bigger holiday here than Christmas. But it is a false narrative, which we were just talking about before the show. In fact, just before this show, there was a program, My Life as a Wild Turkey. I'm not actually sure who was hosting that, but it was a Native American First Nation person talking about the roots of Thanksgiving. And the story that I was told about Thanksgiving, and my son has been in school, so this is especially true for children in the schools, is that the Pilgrims arrived in Plymouth from Britain on the Mayflower in 1620. They were pretty hungry. In the first year, half of them starved to death. But lucky for them, the Native Americans pulled through, specifically the Wampanoag tribe, welcomed them, taught them how to grow corn, beans and squash, taught them how to hunt, catch fish, collect seafood, which meant the following year, in 1621, they had a wonderful harvest, a big feast. And so they held a large feast to celebrate. And of course, they invited their best friends, the Native Americans, and everybody sat down and joined them. And the relations between the Native people and the Pilgrims was painted, or has always been painted to me at least, as a positive and mutually beneficial thing. So I was quite surprised when I dug into this holiday to research, to find out that, there's actually another story beneath that. The First Nation Native people, apparently when the Pilgrims first arrived, they landed at Plymouth Rock, which they named it Plymouth Rock, but it was actually already a village of the Patuxet, I don't know if I pronounced that right, where the Wampanoag Indians had lived for thousands of years. But the Indians thought of the Pilgrims thought the Indians were savage people, cruel, barbarous, most treacherous.
Well, they didn't have the Bible.
Absolutely. They were the kin to the devil. And actually, when the Pilgrims arrived, I didn't know this either, because before 1616, there was 100,000 of this particular tribal people. And then, thanks to a deadly outbreak of the plague brought by the first European settlers or traders, they were decimated. And also, many of them were captured and sold as slaves. And one of these slaves was called Squanto. And he was converted to Christianity in Britain and completely anglicized, but he escaped and came back to the land of his to find his tribe had been completely obliterated. But it was Squanto that actually helped the Pilgrims to grow food and sustain themselves, not the Wampanoag tribe, who actually were a little bit suspicious of the white people, the new white settlers. So anyway, this is the other thing I found out, is apparently when the Pilgrims had their feast, they didn't invite the First Nation Native people, but they set off, like the English like to do, a bunch of cannons and explosions to celebrate. And apparently the Native Americans heard that and thought, hey ho, they got dressed up in their full war regalia, thinking there was going to be a battle. And they arrived and saw this feast. And so the Pilgrims thought, we better invite these people to the feast. So they did actually, I think the Native Americans went out and caught some deer and joined the feast. But the story is not that it was a big friendly affair, but rather quite tense, and that they weren't really invited, the Native Americans, rather they sort of gate crashed.
Sort of turned up.
Yeah, they sort of turned up. And the Pilgrims thought, well, we better let them, because we wanted to have these treaties because we actually want to take the land. So anyway, 16 years later, I also didn't know this until I did this research. In 1637, the white settlers massacred the native people there. They actually set fire to several hundred men, women and children and sold others into slavery. And afterwards, the governor declared, quote, a day of thanksgiving, thanking God that they had eliminated over 700 men, women and children. It was signed into law that, quote, this day forth shall be a day of celebration and thanksgiving for subduing the Pequots, which were the native people. Anyway, I'm nearly done. I just want to say a couple more things just to set a horrid tone of un-Thanksgiving. There is a tradition here on the West Coast of the un-Thanksgiving Day. And there's also, the truth is that Thanksgiving is a bit of a whitewash of the genocide that took place here. And so for many Native Americans, and probably for all of them, this is a day of mourning, that the arrival of the Pilgrims marked the beginning of their end. And so since 1970, there's been thousands of people gathering at Plymouth Rock each Thanksgiving to commemorate a national day of mourning. And I think it's important to remember this brutal history that this land has been founded on. And, of course, it's an opportunity to express gratitude. And but it's also important to recognize and support Indigenous rights and that we live on stolen lands. And I think ignoring the systematic destruction of Indian cultures which followed the Plymouth Feast, it doesn't just do a disservice to the Indigenous peoples, but it falsifies our own understanding of ourselves and American history. And I'm not saying we should all feel guilty about this, but I do think it's important to remember the price that the first Native Americans paid for our white settler expansion into their territories. As we sit and feast with our family and friends, we have to understand this history, I believe, and make peace with the past, reconcile with the present so that we can move forward towards peace in the future. I can't remember who it was who said the fruits of the future are sown from the seeds of the past. So I do think it's important. It might have been Confucius. It was some famous old guy.
Some old guy.
Anyway, let's talk about gratitude in a minute, shall we?
Well, yeah. I wanted to comment on kind of how you opened it. First of all, give you props for taking on such a reality that's hard to face, hard for many of us to face. And I'm wanting to be reminded of that every day now. So I definitely view both that and the Holocaust and other horrors as part of my everyday understanding of our past. I certainly didn't have that as a youth. I didn't have it as a young man. I didn't have it for most of my life, and I've become aware of it in recent years. So I was born in Germany at age 3. We moved to Canada, and there we had a Thanksgiving. And it had nothing to do with Plymouth Rock, obviously, but we were still British subjects. The white people still write the history. They still tell the story. But the story that I took in, and I'm not sure exactly how I got it, was about this is at the end of the season. There's been a harvest. There's lots of plenty. We have all of these fruits of our labor that the good Lord has given us, that indeed we have toiled for. So it's time for a celebration. And so it's that celebration that I identified with the word Thanksgiving, because we had the turkey or the ham or the whatever. I love the turkey. and so that then came to the United States. Thanksgiving was later, so I related that to there's a longer growing season in the United States. And I don't think it's a coincidence that this is a popular holiday when you blend in that being thankful for the bounty of the harvest. Yeah. And that is every bit, I think, as part of our holiday as we have to come to terms with it was on the backs and on the lands that were stolen from Indigenous peoples. So you're so right, and we all need to be aware of that, and it's just an ugly part of our truth.
Yes.
And so it's like the official harvest festival, right? I mean, that's
how I see it.
The month of October and November is full of harvest festivals anyway, but this is like the day off to celebrate the harvest, right?
It's just unfortunate that it's founded on genocide, isn't it?
It is. But I don't go back to Plymouth Rock in my thinking about it. I know that it was true for the people then there, and I know how horrible the whole thing has been. And for me, the genocide in America is just like a Holocaust. It was in Nazi Germany, which my parents were a part of. So I have a big awareness now, and the older I get, the more I become aware of this. I certainly, for most of my life, didn't dwell on that, and most of us don't. And most of us now really want a day of celebration, being happy, gratitude.
I agree, and I'd like to move into that, but it does bug me that our children, because I have a child in the school, is not taught the truth. And it's not just about Thanksgiving. There's a whole bunch of stories that are taught through schools that are not really the truth.
And you're right that today is a perfect day, because I'm going to sit around a big table with my in-laws and nephews and their children and my grandchildren, and we talk, and I'm going to bring this in.
Good.
Not in a huge way, but just as an awareness issue, because I definitely believe that generations now can learn this at an earlier age and form their own picture of what the true history is of our nation and our species.
Right.
All right. Well, with that said, shall we move into some gratitude?
This is Let's Talk. Yeah, so give us a call. Let us know how you're... that went off the scale. Let us know how you're celebrating, what you're thankful for this Thanksgiving. 415-663-8492.
So I can talk about the things I'm grateful for and my own practice. I have actually a strong daily practice of gratitude, which I also tried to bring into my son's life. We light a candle at every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we hold hands at every meal, and we always say a prayer. Been doing that since he was a baby. We give thanks with a prayer for the food. So it's a daily practice for us.
Yeah.
And then every day when we go to bed, we talk about the things that made us happy. Just before I put him to sleep, I ask him, what was he thankful for? What really stood out for him that day? And in the morning, I also have a sit-spot practice, which I know you do too, Bernie. And in that, which I also try and pull my son into. He's only 7, so it's a bit tricky for him to sit still for too long.
I think Paul has a sit spot. It's right where he lives. He just looks out the window.
I just sit and we'll look out the window.
But so what we do is we give thanks. We specifically name the things all around us. The different life forms, like the grandmother redwood tree that we're sitting against, or the water boatman, or the yellow jackets, or that particular Townsend's warbler. We specify, and we're really grateful for the coast live oak. And I think the specificity is important, and we thank the ancestors of the coast Miwok that lived on the land before us, and then we thank, Bapu, my father, who died this year, who's in the ancestor realm, and then we thank our family and friends who are still living, and we go through this, which in a minute I might talk about, but it's a Thanksgiving address that was passed down to me from the late Jake Swamp from the Haudenosaunee tribe, which is the Iroquois Confederacy of the Six Nations.
Nice.
It's a specific prayer that we do, and it's beautiful. But we have a caller.
We have a caller.
Oh, hi, folks.
Hi, caller. You're on the air. What's your name, please?
This is Charlie. How are you doing?
Hey, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Raven, that was gloriously wonderful. I try to do affirmations every morning of gratitude and positive projection. I think what I'm grateful for most is human kindness, where it exists, where people choose to try to go with their loving hearts instead of maybe recrimination or revenge. And it's very energizing when we choose that ourselves. Traffic is always a big challenge. Paul and I living on Highway 1. By the way, Paul, did you get your mug from the...
I saw that. That's lovely that Mary and Amber did that. That's great.
But anyway, just specifically Thanksgiving for me, I come from a clan. Mostly my mother's Greek family from Minneapolis that moved west to San Francisco. And Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter were always big clannish events. Playing with my cousins, and 36 of us sitting at a big table during the old days, and having a feeling of belonging. Obviously we didn't all agree with each other about politics, but I also noted later on in my life that a regular event like Thanksgiving, it demarcates time, and I found myself going back to where I was Thanksgiving the year before, because it was kind of a meridian point chronologically. And I found it very useful to do that sort of review of my own life and where I was and where I wanted to go.
Oh, so it's a time for a review of the year, at least, right? And
see hopefully that I'd come forward. But I also have always associated these holidays. Obviously, the rap about what Thanksgiving was about was lost its meaning a long time ago, where Europeans slaughtered the people that supposedly saved them. But no, it just has become its own life. and I'm going to be having family over at my house today.
Nice.
And
keep the noise down, please.
So anyway, yeah, right. Oh, Sherry's yelling in the back. Anyway, you guys, thanks for your show, and thanks for taking my call. And you guys have a great day, and I'll be listening.
Thank you,
Thank
Charlie.
you, Charlie.
Thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much.
I was thinking, Raven, about you talking about a daily gratitude practice. I think most of us don't have it as a daily practice. I'm trying to do it, but only in recent years. Most of my life, most of the people I know, the idea that Thanksgiving kind of forces us to say a little bit of gratitude or a little bit of thanks is actually, I think, more the norm than people doing it every day. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to hear from people who are indeed making this practice of giving thanks a daily, per meal thing. I've seen it in the movies. I've fortunately not experienced it that way. So Thanksgiving for me is like Charlie. It's that one day we really come for that one purpose.
Well, we didn't sit around and do thanks in my family at meal times. My mum was a single mum, and it was flying by the seat of our pants most of the time to get food on the table, and my sister had to do a lot of the cooking, and so we never really had that. So when I had my son, I really wanted to do it. I don't know where that came from. I just thought, well, it's just such a nice thing to do. We sing a song of thanks, and we look at the food and are grateful that we get to eat, and that brings us, I think, food and the sitting down and eating with presence is. That's a gratitude practice that everybody can try to do, and it is really grounding and
being conscious instead of taking the good things for granted, right?
Yeah, that's right. I believe we have a. Do we have a caller?
We do. Hi, caller. You're on Let's Talk on KWMR. What's your name, please?
Hi, this is Martine in Bolinas.
Martine.
Hi, Martine.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Hello. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much. I wanted to thank you for that. Giving that other part, that other story, and I'm a person of mixed heritage. I have both the European and the First Nation Algonquin heritage, and so I guess in this lifetime I see myself as a bridge builder, and I'm doing mediation and connected to a large group of peace people building peace networks all over the world that I hear from on the Nonviolent Communication Network. And so I'm giving thanks for this tremendous amount of peacemaking that's going around the world. It's just when I open up the computer and I read things, it's, wow, there they are in this country and that country, and doing real ground-breaking work to build a foundation for a culture of peace. I give deep thanks for all the people that are out there and building that network and building that foundation.
Yeah, it's important to remember that, not only is there ongoing war and devastation and aggression, that there are a lot of people out there working to heal that and to change people's minds and to change our default position.
It's growing rapidly, and let's give thanks for it, and thank you for this program.
Great to hear.
Well, we share your thoughts, Martine. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in. Let's see, I'll talk a little bit about the Thanksgiving address maybe again, which, as I said, came from the Jake Swamp. He's passed away now, and he's a sub-chief of the Wolf Clan of the Haudenosaunee tribe, also known as the Iroquois Confederacy of the Six Nations, and his wife Judy. And so this Thanksgiving address is the central prayer for the Haudenosaunee. They open and close every social meeting, every religious gathering with this prayer. It's a way of bringing their minds together as one. And they also have it as a daily sunrise prayer. So it is a daily practice. And what it teaches, it's very long, so I don't know if I'll have time to read it all. And this is the prayer that I do every day, or some version of it. But what it teaches us is that, all of nature is embraced as one family, and that we're all, we're grateful for all of creation. It connects us to the natural world and teaches us that responsibility, that we're strands in the web of life, and that we're, what we do to the web, we do to ourselves. So it's powerful. It's a powerful prayer. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
We have another caller.
Hi there, caller. You're on Let's Talk on KWMR. What's your name, please?
Hi, it's Ingrid Noyes.
Ingrid!
Hi, Ingrid.
Hey.
Hi.
So, I'd like to offer what I remind myself every time I'm having a hard time with anything. I mean, and because we're very spoiled, really, and I'm always aware of that. Our lives, even with whatever difficulties we have, are really, really easy compared to most of the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime I'm having a problem with anything, I remember that I've got plenty to eat and nobody's shooting at me, which puts me way ahead of most of the rest of the world.
Today.
So, and I think, it's important to keep gratitude alive the other 364 days, too.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing to be proud of. That we're living in a place where people aren't shooting at us.
Nobody's shooting at us. We got plenty to eat. Even if you're on the street, you can find plenty to eat in the dumpsters. That's how fortunate we are.
That's right. Yes, there's always something yummy in the dumpster.
Yes, thanks for that reminder.
Thank you, Ingrid, and thank you for what you do for West Marin, and let's hope you can continue to live here. Ha ha ha.
Not much chance of that. But anyway.
Have a nice Thanksgiving.
I'm thinking about this because I'm about to go to Mexico for my annual trip down there, and that is always a place where I am reminded ever so brutally how fortunate we are here, because those people down there are very, 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 very poor and have really, really hard lives. And people are shooting at them, and they don't have enough to eat. So, anyway, we got plenty to eat, and no one's shooting at us. That's my mantra.
Have fun today.
Thank you for calling in, Ingrid.
Thanks, Ingrid.
All right, bye.
Yes, and we have another caller, don't we?
We do. Hi, caller. You're on Let's Talk on KWMR. What's your name, please?
Hello, my name is Karen.
Karen, hi.
Hi, Karen.
Hello, happy Thanksgiving all.
Thank you. Same to you.
And I'm calling, I appreciate what the last caller said, and also in response to Bernie's challenge about, is there anyone out there who has a daily practice? And I guess I've been doing a gratitude practice. I was in a tough spot in my life maybe 5-6 years ago now, and I started to write down 5 things I'm grateful for every night before I go to sleep. And now I'm in the place where I'm addicted to it. Every day I can't go to sleep without thinking of those things, and I can never write 5 things. I'm always writing at least 10, 15.
Wow.
Sometimes I fill the whole page. And what I've learned from the practice is at first it might be a bit of a struggle, and it's definitely good to have a bigger perspective, like the last caller said. I have food, I have my arms and legs, like eyes to see and ears to hear, and it might be I'm grateful for the blue sky or, a flower I see. But I've also found increasingly over time that I get more grateful for the things that are really tough, the life lessons, the grief, the things that really help me appreciate life even more might actually be the hard things that are harder to appreciate but have a lot more richness and help inform my life and help me appreciate those little moments, a smile from a stranger or being able to perform some act of kindness that isn't it's small, but it means a lot. And I think that an earlier caller said that for him human kindness was really a thing to be grateful for, and I think that if we all went around doing that in the mindset, it would be really great to appreciate that, the little things.
Karen, this is Bernie. I so appreciate you talking and encouraging us to do that. I've never done more than 2 sort of at a time, and it is a little difficult sometimes. But one of the things I found, and I'd like to know if you find this true, that when you're focusing on what you're grateful for, you have to let go of what you're angry and fearful for, and all of those frustrations and negativity. It seems to all evaporate when you get into that mental mode of what am I grateful for.
Right. No, you're right. It definitely helps. I think that sometimes I can say in my list, I'm grateful for the anger that made me stick up for myself, or that made me realize I had a problem, or by being grateful for it, I can accept it and then move through it and realize my perspective has shifted. So there definitely are a lot of gifts that are quite surprising, and it's become a habit now. So that's what I really appreciate. It's bigger than me. So I may not do 365. Occasionally I'll miss a day. I might be really tired, but I something isn't quite right, and sometimes I'll turn the light back on if that happens and actually write them, because it does really help shift your mindset, and then you attract things into your life that you may have missed before.
I've actually tried the technique. I used to, when I had trouble sleeping, actually try to visualize sheep jumping over a fence. I mean, it's so ridiculous. And now I thought, well, why don't I do something different with my mind? And actually working on what I'm grateful for, it actually lets me go to sleep. So
there's definitely a positive feedback loop as well. So when you write down all the positive things that happen to you and actively acknowledge the people and that have helped you, that you become better at recognizing those good things, don't you? And then that helps you to feel more grateful and thankful more often.
That's right, the snowball effect.
It's a snowball effect. And it is a practice of mindfulness too, isn't it? You really have to slow down and notice these things. It's a practice.
Yeah, and that's why I say sometimes wow, I'm at the end of the page and I've written 50 things, and look how rich, and that was just from one day's experience.
Fantastic. And it doesn't mean, especially in Raven's case, and all of us here in the studio, that you're disregarding the terrible things that are happening. It's just that you're ending the day or starting the day with a remembrance of the things that are good in your life. Right?
Yeah,
wonderful.
We have a lot to feel grateful for, and I just want to give a shout out to the West Marin. I think it's the community center that are doing the Thanksgiving dinner today at Dance Palace.
Yeah.
Really appreciate them, and I'm making a promise to myself. I want to be helping out doing something like that next year. I think that's a really wonderful way to give back to our community and sort of turn the legacy of where Thanksgiving came from on its head.
Yes.
And be, welcoming everybody together as a community.
Great. Thank you so much. Bernie?
Karen, one last thought.
Yes,
you mentioned this, being grateful for the triggers that where I've been trying to do trigger tracking, not all the time, but as much as I can, and to view that as a tool and something to be actually grateful for, that it's exposing something within you that you want to examine, some judgment or some way of trying to say, why did I react like that? What in my past caused that? And that's a gift.
Yes, it is a big gift, and that when you hit those trigger spots, there's a lot of richness and a lot of gifts there, and it's like a treasure. You can really learn a lot from that.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
Karen.
beautiful day.
Bye-bye.
You too. Take care.
Yeah, so today we're talking about and want to hear from you about your thoughts about the roots of Thanksgiving, whether its spirit lives on in this age of anti-immigrant hostility and in the lives of Native Americans. Who wrote that? I did. Bit of a downer. Please share your opinions and gratitudes by calling 415-663-8492. And to avoid any crossfeed, we're not going to be answering two lines at once, so we'll answer you if there's a call on. We'll end the current call first. And I'll say you're on the air. Give us your first name, turn down your radio, and please watch your language.
So I'm going to bring it into a bit of a downer now and talk about grief and sorrow, because I have this mentor. He's a friend, and his name's Francis Weller, and he's actually been out here to Point Reyes a few times. He works at the Commonweal with the cancer people there, and he specifically is a psychotherapist and a grief worker, and he's trained with Malidoma Some, who's from, I think, West Africa. Sorry, I've forgotten the tribe, but he uses a lot of ritual and ceremony to transform grief, and I've been working with him for a couple of years. And I've learned through him, this is a quote from him, that that grief actually has the power to lead us to deeper gratitude and joy. So this is a quote: "The work of the mature person is to carry grief in one hand and gratitude in the other, and to be stretched large by them. How much sorrow can I hold? That's how much gratitude I can give. If I carry only grief, I'll bend towards cynicism and despair. And if I have only gratitude, I'll become saccharine and won't develop much compassion for other people's suffering. Grief keeps the heart fluid and soft, which helps make compassion possible." I just think that's really wise and so true, and it's certainly been my path over the last few years, is deeply feeling the grief, the loss of species, the Native American genocide. There's so much grief. I know that the previous caller said that we have it lucky, but I've actually traveled to many other countries where people have they're very, very poor, but what they have gratitude and reverence and something else that white people that I know with all this money and wealth don't have, you know. So I think we suffer in different ways, and there's this reciprocal relationship between grief and gratitude. William Blake also said, the deeper the sorrow, the greater the joy. That's certainly been my experience, that grief is a gift, it's holy. And so I'm grateful for my grief, you know.
Right.
That's what I'm grateful for.
It's a balance, right? You've got to have life is a balance.
And being able to hold those two things is a hallmark, isn't it, of psychological health.
Right.
And, there's a lot of self-help books out there that just tell us to cultivate happiness and reject those feelings of sorrow and grief. And I don't buy it. I think you have to have both. You can't have the dark without the light. You can't have the gratitude without the grief. And it is possible to be deeply grateful, which I am, and also mourn the brokenness and the native people that are still continued to be suppressed and subjugated. So I'm working on expressing and releasing my grief and deepening my sense of wonder and awe. So I think there's a place for grief even on Thanksgiving, don't you?
I'm so glad you reminded us all of that. I was writing down a statement for this show to express my gratitude, and I kept wanting to bring in those aspects of grief without consciously thinking about this being grief. So in my search for gratitude, these thoughts all intermingled. Would you mind if I read my little write-up?
Please, go ahead.
I give thanks for all that I have, my life, my health, my KP plan, my wife, my kids, my grandkids, my in-laws, my nephews et al., and both in-person and Facebook friends. I'm grateful for my ancestors, my parents, my German upbringing and immigration, while fully aware of the Holocaust toll and the American natives' annihilation and those whose lands we stole. I give my respect to the coastal Miwok as guests and visitors on their ancestral lands. I'm so privileged by enormous human knowledge and technology that has given me great power at this time of peak oil, peak knowledge, and peak spoils. I'm thankful for early environmentalists like Rachel Carson and David Brower. I admire the work of Greenpeace, Idle No More, and Red Nation Rising. I appreciate Michael Pollan, Al Gore, and Richard Heinberg for opening my door. I'm grateful to Jerry Mander and Bing Gong and RDI for showing me more. I appreciate the work of Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, and Edward Snowden. I follow Chris Hedges and Derek Jensen and support Occupy, Black Lives Matter, and the Deep Green Resistance Showdown. I personally experience unprecedented safety, comfort, freedom, and hardship immunity, and I'm grateful for all my wealth and the good values of this caring community. Social privilege and economic affluence I have and appreciate the confluence, yet immersed and competing in capitalism, I'm still fueling this planetary cannibalism. I'm so ready for economic kaboom so that wildness can have her necessary room. I'm thankful for nature's beauty and diversity. I could see that can see us through the long emergency. I love all my sit spots around Tomales Bay, with the encouragement of my dear wife, whom I love and appreciate in an untold way. Our nature walks highlight our simple life. I'm happy to be an eco-activist, following the many who led as pacifists, becoming ever more radical year after year. I hold my colleagues here on Let's Talk so dear, committed to examining the real root causes while our society experiences big losses. I'm wishing you all a happy Thanksgiving this fall with real peace and forgiveness for all. Thanks.
Lovely.
Very good.
I didn't know you were a poet.
I try.
I'm grateful that we're friends.
Yeah, me too.
And that we're on the same page in the Radical Radio Show.
Yes.
How could you not be grateful for this opportunity that a community has, a radio station where we can all, if we want to, get on the air, express our opinions, have conversations about what matters to us.
As long as we don't swear.
7 words we can't say.
Yeah, it's a wonderful resource. I'm very grateful to this station, absolutely.
Well, I'd love to hear if anyone wants to call in who's listening. You know, what are you grateful for? What practices do you have for being thankful? What are your plans for Thanksgiving today? What are you planning to eat? how you're planning to celebrate, that kind of thing, please call us on 415-663-8492. I got. Do you want to say something?
No.
Oh, I wanted to say that. Again, not to toot Francis Weller's horn again, but he's been a big influence on me. That this is a quote from he just released an article about gratitude and Thanksgiving, a newsletter that I receive, and he said, people who regularly practice gratitude by taking time to notice and reflect upon the things they're thankful for, experience more positive emotions, feel more alive, sleep better, express more compassion and kindness, and have stronger immune systems. Apparently there's a lot of scientific research to prove all this. And gratitude doesn't need to be reserved for momentous occasions. Sure, you might express gratitude after receiving a promotion at work, but you can also be thankful for something as simple as a delicious piece of pie. Now,
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, are you?
Today, yes.
I'm actually, I have to tell a small story here, that I've been collecting one of the oak trees, the Heritage Coast Live oak trees by my house is so prolific. I mean, it's just dropping hundreds of pounds of fat, juicy acorns.
Oh, they're bouncing off our roof and our cars and everything.
My mother says they're landing on the skylight. They sound like bullets in the middle of the night. So
yes.
She's not been sleeping well. But she's thankful for the acorn harvest to be over.
They're all big this year.
They're very juicy big, I think, because of the drought. I'm not sure, but me and Zach, my son, have been collecting them. And for the first year, we've done this in the past, but this is the first year we're doing it solo. We've been collecting them, drying them, pounding them, leaching them for weeks now and months. And now we're I've got my first batch. It's such a labor of love. It took so long just to get this one small jar of acorn flour. And so I'm going to, when I get home, I'm making an acorn pie crust with a local pumpkin. And it's going to be delicious, guys.
Wow, that's really nice.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm really grateful for the acorn trees. And I think I have enough. I think in the Coast of Miwok said, I think you need about 300, 400 pounds of acorns to take a small family of 3 or 4 through the year. So we've got about half that. But that's all part of my emergency preparedness kit as well.
Right,
Collecting
the fact that you know how to process them in a way that you then can eat them.
Well, that's because I got a bunch of books out of the library. And I did 2 years at the Regenerative Design and Nature Awareness Program in Bolinas.
You built the skill. Most people don't have that skill.
I built the skill. Right. That's right. We haven't hunted anything yet. Well, it's actually illegal to hunt here, probably, in the park, right, without a license.
In the park?
Yeah, but as soon as they cross the border, you can get them.
Anyway, I think, psychology is beginning to show that cultivating gratitude in children and adults can, decreases depression, anxiety and stress and, leads to these greater feelings. So why isn't this being taught in the national curriculum? Like, why aren't our kids being taught a daily gratitude practice? And wouldn't that be amazing if they were? Because
our political leaders, I believe, prefer to keep us in fear.
Yeah,
focused on
taking us to the dark side again, Bernie.
Well,
you're right.
I'm sure all the news and all the media keeps focusing on the wars, those horrible others who are trying to come to our country, and we've taken as a country, a very hard line view of we're here, pull up the drawbridges.
Yeah.
If you read Yes magazine, have you seen that? That's a positive news, and there's the positive news periodical, isn't there, as well? But it's a bit boring, actually, I must admit, when I read it. Yes, I like Yes magazine. But
they're profound sometimes, I find. Some good articles.
I find the news it's all quite shocking anyway.
Yeah,
so you need to be reading positive news while listening to KPFA, Amy Goodman. So,
really? Okay.
So you get a bit of both.
Get a bit of both, yeah, okay. The only time I'm really grateful is when I step outside my door and see the trees and the birds. And last night, guys, I can call you guys because you are guys.
We are.
But we can't
call
you part of guys.
But the listeners aren't guys. So listen up, people. Last night, I'm grateful that it's super king tides right now. We're talking super high tides, super low tides. So last night I went to Drake's Beach. Nobody there. Couldn't believe it. And the tide was way, way out. And then the full moon rose and there were owls hooting like great hoo, 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 great horned owls hooting and flying around, and more raptors than you can shake a stick at. I mean, there's so many raptors, and it was just lovely. And my heart was full and singing, and the light was pink. And when you get that mirror sheen at low tide when the cliffs were like reflected in the water and there were all these ripples. I mean,
It's incredible.
I don't want to tell everyone to go tonight because I want to go again. I like having it to myself.
But these last 3 or 4 days, we've been going in the late morning when the high tide is in Tomales Bay, and just seeing everywhere where some of these little docks and bridges are underwater, and just how far does the water come up? And it's fun. I enjoy being connected to the tide, and I never was until we lived here.
Right.
Living here has. I knew what tides were about, and I guess I'd witnessed a few states of tide, but not like I do here now. Now I'm trying to sort of tune into it a little more.
Yeah, that's a piece of my daily life right there. I wake up every morning. Because I don't have an actual ritual, a gratitude ritual of my own, but I feel like every morning I wake up and I look out these big windows. I'm over the water. And like this morning, there were dozens of egrets coming into the bay because I guess the herring are coming in or something.
Oh, really?
So there's these feeding frenzies going on every morning. And the egrets were just kind of hanging out, waiting for something to happen.
Really?
And they're in the tree, so it's like our Christmas tree is full, a big cypress tree full of egrets sitting there waiting for the fish to arrive. And last night, yes, and early this morning, the full moon sinking over the water and that path of the light coming towards us as we were lying in bed. Wonderful. It's just... So yes, very gratitude every day, I think.
I've been noticing the birds and their relationship to the tide. There are some birds that are, when the tide's coming in, are sort of backing up on the land, and others are in the water for the shallow, and then there's another line further behind. And so in nature, these various species have figured out their niche in relationship to the tide, when to rest, when to fish. And boy, we humans, I believe, had that, but... sort of lost it.
It's going away.
Yes.
So and the yes, as you were saying, and what really brings that out, the godwits and the willets always fly around together.
Yes.
But the godwits have a slightly longer beak than the willets do. So even though they're feeding together, the godwits are a little further.
There's 2 lines.
They're going further into the sand, into the mud than the willets are. So every day.
Very beautiful here. It's hard not to be spiritual, isn't it, when you're confronted or witnessing that sort of beauty.
And you're mentioning the raptors everywhere. I mean, that's something I'm coming to really appreciate as I'm watching the red tails, the red shoulders, the osprey. We have an osprey nest that we every year look forward to them coming back, teaching their young to fly, to fish, and all of that. It's just what a blessing.
It's pretty remarkable. And let's not forget that rodenticides are dangerous to raptors. So rodenticide-free West Marin, please. Thank you.
I'm grateful for activists like you, Paul, that are, trying
always
to keep
harping on.
Yeah, no. I honestly, in my gratitude, I have in that Thanksgiving address that I talked about earlier, I always give thanks to the people that I know specifically who are working to stop the destruction of the earth. I really do. I want those people to rise up, be strong, and take action. So anyway, I've got a little fact here. According to researchers at Eastern Washington University, there are 4 primary characteristics of grateful people. So we should all cultivate these characteristics. 1, those who feel a sense of abundance in their lives. Those who appreciate the contributions of others to their well-being. 3, those who recognize and enjoy life's small pleasures. And 4, those who acknowledge the importance of experiencing and expressing gratitude. So if you cultivate these characteristics, you'll find a big difference in the quality of your life. I have to give a shout out to my sister, who I know is, she has a gratitude practice, and she also is pretty good about writing those thank you notes and cards and little spiritual messages that she just random acts of kindness, I think they used to call it, right? When you just randomly say. And in fact, I bumped into Starhawk, who I haven't seen for years, if you know who she is, permaculture educator, a social activist extraordinaire, Bay Area witch. But she
and musician.
Yeah, she's just amazing. Well, I haven't seen her for ages, probably like 6 years or something, and I bumped into her at the Northern Permaculture Convergence, and I just ran up to her and gave her a big hug and said, you have no idea what an influence you've been on me. And I just want to thank you if I never see you again, that you've just been such a wonderful mentor to me just through your writings and your activism. And thank you so much for being alive. And I think she was quite taken aback, but she felt really good. And another person I did that to was Derek Jensen not so long ago. I was like, if I die next week, I just want you to know that you profoundly influenced my life through your writings. Even though we've never really met, he was just such a big person for me. And so I think it's important to remember the small people and the big people and thank all of them too.
Oh, yeah.
You were talking about the affluence and people feeling that. And there's different perceptions of what affluence is. I mean, there's this money chasing game that some person who's got $1 million house is really unhappy because they don't have a $2 million house. And, the income used
relative.
to be bigger and it used to come down and they don't think they're well off. And then there are people who are unemployed or scrapping every day who feel that they have an abundance. And the older I get, I'm tending to appreciate the things that are free more and less being about money and accumulation of that kind of economic wealth, because the wealth of connecting with nature and connecting more deeply with people, that's something I'm still learning to do.
And it's free.
It's free, yeah.
Which is amazing.
Well, I'm certainly grateful for the contributions of others to my life. My life's been extraordinarily lucky in many ways, and I can think of 2 real male mentors in my life who I'm grateful to, who are no longer with us. And the rest of them were mostly the incredible women that I've known in my life, which is continuing to happen, which is a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah. What I've learned from women has changed my life. It's an incredible gift.
That's because you listen to women. That's the key.
Well, I was taught to listen to women.
Obviously had a good mother.
I did. My mum was nice.
Hey, look, who said this? It's not happy people who are thankful. It's thankful people who are happy.
I think that makes sense.
I saw that on Facebook.
That's not one of those Einstein quotes?
I don't know. It might be, but it didn't have a name. It was one of those memes, with the picture of the sunset. And
if they put a nice picture and the words in a special font, it really has more resonance, doesn't it?
Yeah, it resonated for me.
Than not just text on a line.
And Master Eckhart said, if the only prayer you ever said was thank you, that would suffice.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
It's a blessing to say thank you. We have a caller.
Hi, caller. You're on Let's Talk on KWMR. What's your name, please?
Well, this is Karine, Paul.
Karine. Hi, Karine.
Welcome.
I'm grateful for you.
Oh, stop. Thank you.
I'm grateful for Marshall. I think the community in Marshall is so amazing, and I really feel blessed to have found Marshall.
Nice.
And then, of course, I'm grateful for Fred. He's my darling, sweet partner, and I'm very grateful for him as well. So.
Yeah, it's lovely, and I'm grateful to have you as a neighbor. So,
well, thank you.
A wonderful thing.
And just grateful. I have a thing that I often say, when I get a negative feeling or negative thought, then I have this little expression I say to myself, and I say, cancel and clear that thought, and then I bring in a positive thought. And it's something that someone taught me many, many years ago, and I use it quite a bit,
Cancel and clear.
Right. That's like the escape button on the keyboard, right?
Clear the thought.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, that's lovely.
Have a great day.
You too. And
Thank you.
Have a good meal. I'm sure you're cooking up a storm wherever you are.
I have a turkey that's going to go in the oven in about 15 minutes. And then I'm going to go for a lovely hike with Fred, and then we're going to eat.
Beautiful. Thank you, Karine.
Sounds lovely.
Thanks, Edie. Thanks.
Bye.
What are you two doing for Thanksgiving anyway? You two co-hosts.
I'm going up to sort of Inverness, this side of Inverness, with friends, good friends up there, having a big feast.
Turkey. What are you eating?
Lamb, I think.
Lamb? Oh, gosh. What about you, Bernie?
I'm so lucky to have a regular family tradition. My wife's sister, Barbara, in El Cerrito, she hosts it, and so comes the extended family of all sides. Everyone can come every time, but the dinner is held every year, and I so look forward to it because it's a chance to have kind of intergenerational discussions. Because when we go around the table with either the talking stick or some way to give the kids something to express about thanks or whatever, that's a highlight for me. Well, maybe the turkey's the highlight. I don't know. I love the turkey. I love the food. But most, I think, I like the tradition. And I think it was our friend Charlie who talked about, it marking time. For me, it does. I think about which Thanksgiving and kind of how the kids played, what ages they are, and how they interacted. And so many wonderful things happen.
We haven't really celebrated Thanksgiving in my family, being English, and I don't remember celebrating it at all last year, even though I was living here. But this year we are. I have my son's father and my mum and my sister and my son and me, and then some other siblings of my son's coming.
That sounds nice
as well, but it'll be nice. Yeah, but we're not doing turkey. We thought, no, we're not going to do turkey because I found out online, the font of all wisdom, that turkey isn't actually that traditional because they didn't really have turkey back in the days of the feast. So I thought, well, we'll do a goose. So we got a goose for a ridiculous amount of money, I might say, from Good Earth. But I've never had goose before, so it'll be interesting how I'm going to cook it.
Nice.
And then we got some duck, and then I'm going to make this amazing pumpkin acorn pie, and sweet potatoes. Although I don't think they had sweet potatoes back in the day either, did they? Do you guys eat sweet potatoes?
Sweet potatoes is...
It's not my favorite. I go for the mashed potatoes and gravy, and then I have red cabbage.
Cranberries,
that my wife cooks from my German tradition, and have brought that in. We have cranberry, and then the applesauce goes on the red cabbage.
Applesauce,
red cabbage. I'm doing a sweet potato, mashed sweet potato, but savory, though, with garlic and cumin, and then pomegranate seeds on top.
Oh, for the color?
Almonds.
Yeah,
for the
beautiful.
Sweet and sour.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
You're a chef.
We'll see if it turns out.
John, let us know. John F. Kennedy says, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. So I like that because it's not just about saying thanks, but your actions actually have to back it up. Which I think if you were expressing gratitude and being thankful all the time, you're probably going to act in positive and helpful ways, right?
It might facilitate you actually acting more. I know I don't act enough, and I'm hoping that by talking about it more, that'll actually push me to do more. Our subconscious is at work, and so one way to kind of predict what you're going to do or plan what you're going to do is what you think. That's what you'll do. So we can choose what to think, fortunately. Still, the police haven't gotten in there yet.
Yeah, it can be hard to, that's where the practice comes in, right? Because it can be hard to feel gratitude every day.
Yes, I'm pretty grumpy most days. I have my gratitude practice, and I go back in, and it's, oh, God, I've got to do the laundry and the breakfast and do this.
I combine it with a sit spot. So there I am sitting on Tomales Bay at the beach watching the tide roll in. I pull out my iPhone, and then I punch my gratitude in there. It's a good use of the iPhone there. I may take a picture,
too. I'm not grateful for the iPhone. I'm not. No, not really.
I couldn't live without it now.
So you have a gratitude database in your iPhone, then?
I do. That started with that daily journaling, excuse me. I took the RDI course on ecology of leadership.
Right.
And that's where I learned sit spot, daily, gratitudes, and journaling. And those three core principles they sound so basic, but they're profound in terms of what it turns you into or changes you towards.
Deepak Chopra, I've got all these quotes. Gratitude opens the door to the power, the wisdom, the creativity of the universe. You open the door through gratitude. So there you go. I think Karen, when she rang in, said if you're grateful for what you already have, you attract more good things into your life. And we have another caller.
Another caller sneaking in.
Sneak in there.
Hi, caller. You're on the air. This is KWMR. What's your name, please?
Oh, hello, it's Pamela. Just a quick call to make a plug for Happy the Film, which Rotary is going to show in Point May Station on January the 28th. And just to tell you what it says Happy takes us on a journey from the swamps of Louisiana to the slums of Kolkata in search of what really makes people happy. combining real-life stories of people from around the world and powerful interviews with leading scientists in happiness research. Happy the movie explores the secrets behind our most valued emotion. So that's in Point Reyes Station at the Dance Palace, I think, and it's at 7 o'clock on January the 28th. So since you mentioned what makes us happy, I thought people might like to know that they could come and see that movie.
Yeah, that is a nice little movie. And the guy in Calcutta is really happy about having his family, which is a wonderful thing. Thank you,
Thank you for calling in. We've got to cut you off because we're all out of time, but I just want to end with a gratitude prayer, the Celtic blessing, since that's also my spiritual practice from my ancestral homelands. Celtic blessing. Deep peace to you, deep peace of the running wave to you, deep peace of the flowing air to you, deep peace of the quiet earth to you, deep peace of the shining stars to you. I wish to thank all our listeners and our callers today for your participation. I hope you'll tune in every Thursday at 11 because your voice really does matter.